Welcome back to Project 613. Today's portion contains two mitzvot. Firstly, a quick review of the mitzvah we learned yesterday, which was the laws that govern the ritual impurity called Zav. Zav, as we learned yesterday, is a man who experiences an abnormal seminal discharge, and the Torah says that such a person is considered ritually impure, similar to a woman who was a Zava who would have to count 7 clean days. So too, the Zav would have to count 7 clean days where he is not experiencing this sort of discharge, and only then go to the mikveh and then become ritually pure again. The second mitzvah that we learned today has to do with the ritual impurity contracted by a carcass of an animal, and this is both a kosher animal that didn't have a shechita but just died, or a non-kosher animal that just died. So any animal that just died naturally is called a nevela, and one who comes in contact with it is considered ritually impure. And this type of ritual impurity, as with many of the others, was only relevant at the time that the temple stood, because it had to do with entering the temple and similar laws. But in today's day and age, for all practical purposes, this law is not practically relevant. Nevertheless, Maimonides teaches us an interesting principle when discussing this mitzvah, when discussing this sort of ritual impurity, which really pertains to all of them, and that is that although there are many mitzvahs associated with ritual purity and ritual impurity, they are different than most, because usually when we talk about a mitzvah, so we understand it as something that one should do or something that one should not do. For example, there is a mitzvah to put on tefillin, so we know that means we should put on tefillin. And here we're talking about a mitzvah concerning the ritual purity or impurity. Does that mean one should go ahead and become impure, or that one should go ahead and become pure? So Maimonides says no. If a person decides to touch the carcass of an animal, that's purely his choice. If he wants to, he can. If he wants to, he doesn't have to. The mitzvah over here is that in the event that someone does, then there's certain guidance that he needs to follow with regard to how, with regard to knowing when he is impure, and with regard to knowing how to gain ritual purification again. But whether or not to maintain his status of being ritually pure, or to go ahead and become ritually impure, is purely a matter of one's own personal choice. Of course, the only exception to this is when it comes to Kohanim, in terms of becoming ritually impure from dead bodies. But other than that, when it comes to most of these types of ritual purity and impurity, it is purely a matter of choice. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.